Howdy folks. Today we are going to do a quick load of the 115 grain controlled chaos for 300 blackout. We're going to use a COAL of 2110. We are using CFE BLK for the powder. I love this powder, by the way. At 22 grains of powder. I'm just using basic reloading presses. And I have pre-trimmed, cut, and primed brass that I have already cut, trimmed, and primed. Brass length 1.355. So it's all ready to go. There we have it. 22 grains of CFE BLK. Looks good. Very pretty powder, very small grain. All right, we're going to put that in each of the... So just a fairly easy process. It fills most of the case up. Right to about maybe 1/10 of an inch from the top. There's no possibility for a double load with this. Just make sure you're using the right powder. Some of the other powders, this is going to put it over a pressure gap. CFE BLK is a fairly low pressure powder, so I wouldn't worry too much, but of course you always want to be careful and you don't want to get complacent. Alright, I'm just going to do the rest of these, about 50 more, so I'm just going to skip. So then what I do is I give each case a look through, make sure powder levels are consistent. Do this in a grid search pattern. Some people put the cartridge straight in, they put the projectile straight into the case and think that's the safest way. I don't agree. I think you should double check and triple check each case. If you can't see the powder line, how the hell do you know how much powder you put in there? You're completely relying on your powder dropper. So I've checked them all and they all look good. Line them all nice and up. And this is the part that I really like about this Control Chaos cartridge, or projectile. It doesn't look like it. It looks like it's a flat base, but it tapers just enough that you can shove it in there. And this makes it a lot easier, in my opinion, to reload it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and place projectiles on all those prepped cases. Okay, so I've placed projectiles in all of the cases, and they're pre-prepped with CFE BLK. One thing I want to take note of real quick before we continue, the size of the hollow point. It's quite a bit larger hollow point, and what this Control Chaos does, if you don't know, I'm sure you already know if you're watching the video, but the Control Chaos breaks into petals, where 4 to 5 petals break off, and then the main body, the back of the projectile, continues forward through the target. It really is quite an impressive result and works good on deer and hogs. I would probably stay away from using it on a large boar, but hogs under 150 pounds, man, this thing is the ticket. Same thing with deer. It seems to work just perfect on deer. The vital areas get completely destroyed from a BLK going anywhere between about 1,600 to 2,300 feet per second, and it really does a lot of damage. Alright. They seem to be fairly consistent. They're almost all going to the exact same place. Like I said, I would rather have it a little longer than too short. Not that I don't think it would be too short anyways, but it's going to be pretty close. I'd rather have a little more length than a little bit less. Okay. Total length 2.115. I just went with a little bit longer, just in case some of them are shorter. I want that canalure showing just a little bit on all of them. You can make it out right there. You can just barely see the canalure. That's what I want. With these 300 BLK, I like a medium crimp. I'm using a factory crimp. And just a little bit. But it's enough that it won't get pushed in. So there we have it, easy peasy. One last step, let's see if I can show these to you, is to gauge it. Way to go. And they should all fit nice and flush. Looks good. See? I am going to take care of these myself, and then we'll tell you anything else we need to when we're done, and then we're going to go do a gel test with this. I already know what it does. It's very impressive. It really looks good in the gel, and it works pretty good for small game, medium game, hogs and deer, coyotes. So I will finish these up and give some last thoughts. Okay, so they've all been gauged, finished. Projectiles all ready to go. 64 projectiles. Didn't take very long. It really does lend itself to reloading. I like this Controlled Chaos projectile. It has that slight boat tail that really does, it just fits right into that case. It's nice and tight, and nice tight, you just shove in and it's nice and tight, and it fits in there real nice. They feed real well in every BLK I've tried with it. Bolt action and semi-auto. My little 7.5 inch pistol is usually the one that's trickiest, but these work just perfect in it. Everything seems to work in it. It just, out of my three, it's the one that I'm concerned with the fit, because it's a very tight fit. And the projectile better be the right size. But all in all, I love this projectile and cartridge combination. It actually is made for the 300 blackout. That's one thing. A lot of our blackout projectiles are just retasked 308s. So, for instance, here is your competitor with this, which is your standard. No, it's not. One second, let me get the. Now here you go. From left to right, you have a 208 grained AMAX. Then in the center is our Controlled Chaos. Then on the right, you have your 110 grain Hornady VMAX. And I liked the Hornady, but it's made for a 308. Its effects from a 300 blackout just are not as consistent. Sometimes it expands, sometimes it doesn't. It often will change trajectory a lot, but that's not always what I'm looking for. I want something that's going to consistently operate, and that's this central cartridge here. That's your Controlled Chaos. The Barnes TAC X is also a very impressive projectile, but it's literally twice the price, if not 3 times the price of this Lehigh Controlled Chaos. Then if you look over here, this is the AMAX 208 grain. It's a subsonic, and I expect 0 expansion from that. That's mostly for punch and paper. It's never going to do that impressive of a terminal ballistics, but it does shoot nice, and it's a nice long, accurate, true flying projectile. But what we're really talking about is this Controlled Chaos. For a lower price option for a projectile, it really does work great in the blackout. It's not going to be subsonic, it's not going to be super quiet, but it does work. Alright,